Peace, peace. Okay. This session here is not at the school because I intended to be at the school, and I literally I had such a full day. I literally couldn't get out there. Uh, so finally could get back on here. I had technical difficulties and other issues where I wasn't even able to take the time to build on here. So um, we could do it now. We'll do it now. As to a 2023 progresses, I expect to be more regular and really getting at the school. So I won't have to hear the older God just say, "See you when I see you," and I'll actually be there. All right. Uh, since I'm home though, since I'm here at the rest, I have some access to other materials, so we could build on different things. Um, I could show you some other materials. I don't know if the God symmetry will get on here, but I had some interesting thoughts on this idea, and I want to. It's important to because it's part of my curriculum as I teach students. It is part of what the elders taught me. Every single elder taught me. You got to understand that every single elder that people talk about, and every single elder that was in Mecca, that was alive, I had to build in front of. So this particular assignment or particular exercise that I'm talking about is something that I did with them, and I think that this argument, though, in fact, you know what? I'm gonna tell the God that I'm on this. You know. All right, let me get the link to this because the God made a good point. I want to find it. I want to find where his point is, and I think that his build, his understanding about this particular subject, uh, is very useful. You know what I mean? All right. And what I'm going to address though is again, I've addressed this before, but some of the political isms about it, and also some of the true useful arguments about it. I don't talk about all being born. Um, all right. When we take today's mathematics, like today's wisdom, and we would say it's all being born the culture of freedom. Some people don't do it. I won't go through some of the reasons. Some people do it just because they were told. Some people say they don't do it for other political reasons, which I find to be incorrect. So I'm going to go through this history and reasons and everything, because it's part of my curriculum. So now there's a little bit of a pedagogy here, of difference, a science of teaching that's going to be a little bit different, so I could share the different points of view. All right, so that way people know when it's being asked, when it's not really understood, when it's used uselessly, and then when it's used properly. So we'll go through all that. And I'm gonna do that later. Right now, I just want to get people's builds and people's questions, because I haven't been at the school or even online the last 2 weeks, which is like a millennia for me. Like, it really takes everything off for me. The Thursday night after the class session is the beginning of my week. But because of so many things happening, I literally wasn't even able to get online for a suitable amount of time. But I am now, so I want to get these questions and stuff like that. Excuse me. Also, I got sincere peace. All right, Kenneth McFarland. If you're new, let me know who you are, because that means you're in my class and blindfolded. I don't know who you are. Peace to the God, Substance 810. And I was just thinking about the song that I did, and curious how that's gonna go in with the whole context. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to that. Divine understand, peace. If anybody has any questions about anything that they heard, anything that they saw, anything about what I may have said in the last week, because what ends up being the last classes, oh boy, Dark Kim called a great rant, but there's a lot of nuance and detail in that last build, So if there are any follow-up questions about that too, I'll take them as well. You know. Yeah, I don't know if the God is online too, but peace to the God, Allah Preem. You know, um, we share the same born day, so my born day was yesterday. It wasn't. It's not today, but we share the same born day. So God has been had a great year. Actually, the most prolific year in hip hop this 2022. So I gotta give him some kudos. Right. Whereas others look at this chat here, our brothers like Substance 810 um, had two of the greatest albums of the year, easily. And I am absolutely biased though. No, because I'm on one of them. But no, they really are. They really are. MC of the year candidate. Seven Power. That's peace. That's a peace message to the entire universe. Peace, Rome. Thank you, Rome. Thank you, Divine. Peace. Peace of the earth. All right. No doubt. No doubt, sub. But yeah, let me know your questions and everything like that. You know what I mean? Um, but Seven Power, your name is IB or Born Alive. I've always been interested though. When somebody has two names though, why is that? You know, what would we definitively call you? You know, you have two righteous names. What would we definitively call you? Victory Allah, Virginia, right? I have a real backlog though. I feel like I didn't really send all the emails properly to everyone that's been emailing me. So please, I keep telling everybody, this is a good exercise in pestering whoever it is that is teaching you, sharing with you, to get at you. Excuse me. And to get at me and let me know if I haven't though. You know what I mean? Interesting thing. I've just been thinking about this all day. You know, great page, probably the most useful page about getting this knowledge that you could see, the entire gamut of the culture, 5% connection online. And they shared a video. And I want to go, I just want to tell you something about that video, because it's one of the last memories I have with Freedom Allah, Papa Wu, um, one of the great builders, you know what I mean? And when he, when that video was taken, I was there on a Saturday. I was not there on a class day. And I was just hanging out. I was waiting for, I think, I know who I was waiting for. I was waiting for one of the guards. He had taken a trip. He doesn't live in, Mecca, New York. And he took the trip there, and it was my day to see him. Like, he was like, I'll be at the school. So I went over there, dropped him off. I also dropped off, what was the book I was selling at that time? The Reel of 2021 and 2020. I was selling that book. I think that's the one he bought. Or he bought Filtered Reel. I don't remember. But so I was there, and these young brothers came in. They didn't have the knowledge though, but they was interested. There was nobody there, so like it is on these days, we take it on the mantle, and I was building with them, you know what I mean? And we're building at the back of the school. So that video that you see on 5% Connection with me and Papa Wu, that's actually outside of the back of the school. In videos where you see me at the school, like last week, it literally would be to my right, the back of the school. And other videos that you've been seeing a lot of school in Mecca. I'm trying to give you a layout of this thing here. When you see a lot of school in Mecca videos lately, the recent ones with me, where would it be? It'd be behind me, because I'm facing the front of the classroom, so that would be behind me. And so we're just building there, and what's interesting is that I was building on something, and it happened so many times. Probably happened the most with Infinite Al Jamal, Remembered Imperfection, but Freedom, Remembered Imperfection, he was, and he came in, and I was building about something, and they didn't know who he was immediately. So I pulled him over, and and we exchanged greetings, peace to God, hug, and I told him what they was asking, and for his perspective, and that's what you got out of that. You know what I mean? Because so a lot of times we hand that ball off. You know what I mean? We hand that ball off, and we see what they would say, and that's what Freedom said, and it didn't matter. It didn't matter how many years I knew Freedom. I always watched them with awe because he had a style. He had a unique style. You know what I mean? It's funny. They call him Papa Wu, but stylistically, as a wordsmith, as commanding the room with his magnetic and his voice, his ideas, he was as unique and as any Wu-Tang member that we find popular. Probably even more so. This ability to hold a room with what he was saying, and since I'm going to talk about the all being born again, because the God Symmetry brought it up in a good way. Freedom also, because I want to show you that the pedagogy that we teach, though, sometimes has varying viewpoints, and I want to show you the varying viewpoint. Yeah. Unfortunately, IB was, not is, right? Unfortunately was. Um, Freedom actually didn't care for the classroom setting. So teaching a student in the classroom setting for him felt like to him that it overpowered the individual. It made the student follow him, and he was right. He was right in a lot of ways, because the traditional classroom setting though is teacher at the head, and then all the students are facing the teacher. Until you have more updated models of teaching, more progressive models of teaching, you have um, you have a more circular approach. Now, the way I teach though doesn't always restructure the room, but because of the way I station myself inside the room, it keeps to a circular approach. Okay, so I'm trying to right. So the this particular classroom, Allah School of Mecca, is a rectangle. It is difficult to do a circular approach without a certain level of crowding, and that doesn't work because you want the students to be comfortable. You know what I mean? And then sometimes the circular approach doesn't work in the rectangular classroom. It's all about the actual logistics now. It doesn't work in the classroom of that sort, because then if you want to use the blackboard aim, certain students will have more difficulty looking at the blackboard in this case. You know what I mean? So you have those logistical issues, right? So how do you make up for that? Well, you make up for it. The teacher is the one who makes up for it though. The teacher is the one who makes up for it though, and kind of sets them at best where they can feel comfortable to swivel back and forth. So they're looking at you, but they're comfortable to swivel back and forth. And the way you do that sometimes is when the seats you in the rectangular, the long side the seats are, they used to face each other, each student upon student. I would often go through there and I would sit next to the students to speak about certain issues, and then go to the board to illustrate certain issues. Now, this sounds kind of obvious, but this isn't really done. There has to be a rapport. You know what I mean? And then sometimes the teacher doesn't have comfort. What people don't get is that when you build in a classroom setting, you may lose your train of thought because you have a set lesson. So even though you may even have the plan, you may even have the plan written down. You know what I mean? Um, Give me a moment here. And you know what? You may even have the plan written down though. Some type of issue may come up, and you actually be distracted, like a wet folder, right? That you wet yourself, right? And a teacher usually loses track of certain things like that, and they lose their place. And even if they get their continuity back though with the outline that is in the class, the outline, that their own personal outline, they may lose the students. So there has to be a certain way to constantly recapture the student's attention as you do this kind of stuff, right? In the beginning, the teacher also may be nervous though, right? In the very, very beginning of me public speaking, I would often take off my glasses. And when I take off my glasses, though, I'm nearsighted, so I couldn't see the reactions of the students. Um, or whoever was listening, right? Whoever's in the audience. And then I realized that it doesn't matter. Whatever I think they're reacting as, they're reacting as. When you become more comfortable, then you start to feel what they're actually feeling. If they're reacting, if they're vibing, right? Because the classroom is not like an audience of a show. You don't really hear anything. You know what I mean? So attentiveness could be as quiet as boredom and totally drifting away on you, right? So as you feel more comfortable, then you start to look at them particularly. But in that classroom setting, Papa Wu Freedom really felt that the student had a domineering position over the student. And I find that funny. I'll tell you this. I find it interesting because whether we were on the street or not, though, the magnetic that freedom had was very domineering. So it lorded over people anyway. You know what I mean? And so the truth is, I'm being totally honest here, his magnetic didn't really made that a moot point. You know what I'm saying? So like whatever he felt was a detriment in the classroom of deliberate domineering over the student's mindset, making him turning him into a follower, right? This is what he used to say. Um, he actually had the ability to kind of do that um, just by default. And I think every teacher with great magnetic can do that. This is why my teaching style is so filled with so many disclaimers and points of realignment, refocus. You know what I'm saying? All right, let me see. IB, thank you. All right. Oh, yours tomorrow. So you're the wisdom understanding day. That's peace. All right. Infinite mind, yeah. Born on the winter solstice, exact time of the sunrise. You're ready. You're ready, right? Hmm. That's the way it worked out. That's the way it worked out. All right, King, come on. King, come on. We're working on this thing. We're working on this album. It's coming out very good. It's coming out very good. IB, you said I never met him, though I viewed the God. Oh, of course, of course. Anything that you can watch, anything you can see, watch it. Watch it. And there's enough video of him where you could see the development over the years. You know what I mean? Like the development over time, and how he's changed over the years. But he'd be in my classroom and he actually would tell me about this disagreement about teaching in the classroom, you know? And with him, I didn't take it as a dart because he was felt comfortable enough to actually say that because he knew I wouldn't really start an argument though. Because the reasonings that he gave, I actually agreed with. And that's why in the classroom, though, you have to drift and you have to constantly change the center of focus in the classroom when you're teaching. You know what I mean? And you cannot change it too much that you lose the guidance of what you're sharing, the particular things you're sharing, because that person that is teaching is sharing particular things. You know what I mean? Sharing particular ideas. And that's what you're in the classroom for. So it's a combination. It's a combination. How do we have the classroom as a guiding force to that head instructor's insights, but then also continue to be a active laboratory for the student, to do all of his experiments with truth, right? As Gandhi would say, right? The experiments with truth and explode himself, right? But yeah, Papa was definitely a character. You know what I mean? But listen, again, I was gone for 2 weeks, so if anybody has any questions, Micah Mitchell, peace. Let me know. I always ask for questions, and I get questions a lot later, But let me go into this thing. I know the God symmetry is not there, but I'm sure I will honor His words and not just dismiss them. But the first time that I heard people saying that all being born, when you're born to mathematics, is not right and exact, was not because of a historical leaning, but because it's not actual mathematics. It's really the phatic system. You know what I'm saying? Numerology, exercise of numerology, right? Where you're taking a number and you're adding up the numerals in that one said number. So 22 becomes 2 plus 2 equals 4. And probably the most intelligent God that I ever saw really argue about this against it was the God Emblem. And Emblem, who's a great writer, dynamic writer on many fronts. One of the superb thinkers, really. And he would say that basically it's not actual mathematics because 22 will never equal 4. and he would talk about the history of this nation and how we talk, we give ourselves the titles of mathematicians, and we haven't mastered. Oh, I'm about to sneeze. We haven't mastered mathematics. You know what I mean? Like different fields of mathematics. You know what I mean? And these are good cases in point, right? They're good cases in point. We terrible mathematicians as a nation. Like we're not computing lots of high mathematics. You know what I mean? High equations. We're not getting into different things. You don't really see you don't really see builds about higher mathematical sciences and how that applies to the basic tenets of the knowledge of self. You don't see any of that. And I want to say that we see mainly philosophizing, but I don't like that, and I will tell you why. Main reason is my own bias, though, because I'm a philosopher. No matter what I would say, in many respects, I am a philosopher. I philosophize about things, and my main tool is the tool of logic, expressed through supreme mathematics. You know, historically, to end that note, technically, the God emblem, and then also reiterated by symmetry, the God symmetry, they're correct. It's not really mathematics. Like it's not a technical mathematical aspect to born the numbers, right? It's technically not in any of the fields in science. It is actually in the field historically of numerology, which is not science. But historically, this has also been a tool that every single elder I've ever met has expected and even demanded that the students, and I, particularly myself, build that way and come to an understanding and be able to come to an understanding in that fashion. So it has validity in that sense. There is a historical precedent. Those that come along with hadith, you know what I mean, that do this religiously and say the father said this, the father said that, and they have no idea what the father said. They don't even know more than one elder personally. They're usually doing it secondhand with someone that really may have known the elders with the father and then is saying this. But they usually don't know more than 2 or 3 personally elders, and certainly not firstborns. Again, I was doing this in front of firstborn Prince, right? Firstborn Al Jamal, Allah B, Dumar Wadi Allah, Wise Jamal, Infinite Al Jamar Allah, My Enlightener Knowledge Me, Savior Knowledge Allah, Ahmed. You go down the line, you can keep going. You know what I mean? Dr. Janelle. Every single elder I mentioned, I've repeatedly built on the day's mathematics and born them. So it is false to say that it is not a part of the tradition. And to say that the father didn't do that, though, begs the question, if he didn't do it, he didn't, and he ever saw it, he had no problem with it. If he didn't do it, then these very, very firstborns and first fruit saw fit to do that. They saw fit to do that as an exercise. Okay. Now, why I continue to teach it, though, is because I find it to be a great pedagogical tool. A lot of times people see supreme mathematics as a code, sometimes even a cheat code, to understand the power that is within us as original Black men, as original Black women, right? And you can leave that out. Leave it out. And one of the things that gets lost with seeing it like that, I got distracted. My little girl was pouring water. I was like, well done. Job well done. But one of the things that gets lost though with this is that it looks like a spell book. These are the spells that will reveal ourselves to our realities to us, and that's not what supreme mathematics is. Supreme mathematics is a articulation of who we are and the steps of reality that we engage in at all times when we look back on things, and the proper way to look at things. You see what I'm saying? Now, okay, let me see. IB, you said I come into this understanding now. The God just came in. Now it's born to me about it. Okay. Wise Prince, you said when I born out my math, I say I bring it back to its simplest form, back to the 9 principles supreme math, because my math only has 10 principles. That's an interesting idea too. I'm going to give you my idea. Okay. When the Father made supreme math, I'm just going to say this though, as the far as Hadith, I always say this is not immediately relevant. The Father never proved anything by saying, I'm the Father. He never proved anything by saying that this is what I do and that's why it should be done. Okay? That's never been his way of proving things. You know what I mean? He was the Father, but he wasn't just a cliche parent saying, I do it and that's why you do it and that's it. He never proved anything by saying that I do it. Okay? That's incorrect thinking. The all being born, though, when it's in use, and I teach it in use, and I expect students to do it though, is because the supreme mathematics to me is also a profound teaching tool. It is why I consider the words in the fifth degree, in the fifth degree, the arguments in the even sometimes the arguments in the fourth degree, right? Culture, freedom, power, refinement. I consider them to be in there. You know what I'm saying? And if I take them out with some students, right? Infinite Mind knows that we had this back and forth, and it was really about pedagogy. It's not because refinement doesn't belong there. It's because it's because the definition of refinement is so poorly known. It is incorrectly used as a feminine synonym of culture in the fifth degree power, and that's incorrect. You know. But I see Infinite Mind had the question. Question: why do brothers have an issue with adding two numbers to get a single digit, but never question say anything about the Father using supreme alphabets on the months? You know, it's always pick and choose. It's always pick and choose, right? And I'm saying I understand the God emblem, and I understand and symmetries arguments that I saw him post are identical. They're similar, nearly identical. This is not a higher form of complex mathematics. And 22 will never equal 4 technically. So if you look at it in that way, that's not there. You know what I mean? And a lot of times, yes, throughout the years, in the way of life of many of the people with the knowledge of it, and I said people with the knowledge of it, not the God's nerds. I'm not gonna just say it like that. Borning the mathematics gets used as if they know higher mathematical uh sciences, and they don't. And one thing I remember in the essays of Emblem that he wrote on this was that he felt that many of the gods don't seem to graduate to the higher mathematics. You know what I'm saying? Now, I have a certain bias here as far as that. The higher mathematics and deeper mathematical sciences are not my calling. I'm a writer. I deal with the philosophical aspects. I deal with the depth of the word. Um, this is how I teach, and this is the framework by how I teach. But it should not be the only way, right? But surely what I am doing though is certainly mathematical. It is a form of logic. And one of the things that is most difficult for students, and I'm saying this as an experience and from a vantage point that almost no one has, especially a vantage point that I could define has aspects that no one has, and as teaching at the school for over 2 decades, is that students don't know how to relate and identify their own personal principles and prove them through supreme math and say, this is what's going to be my principles. And when you born the mathematics this way, two, like wisdom, born culture, what you were doing is an exercise in coupling principles. See? And I had something written down in my journal earlier this week that really defined it well. I gotta go get it though. But it's good. It's good. Give me a minute. Okay. All right. All right. Okay, so now this coupling of principles is in how you see supreme mathematics. So I'm going to read you something. I wrote this in my journal, just so you look at this. Look how real it is. Book number 70, right? And I started this November 15th. You know what I mean? I've been on the low end. There's so many things I want to write. I have reduced the amount of pages I write to 10 pages a week. That still makes over 500 pages every single year. Put that work in. You know what I mean? And this year I've made over, it has to be about 900, 800, 700 pages I've already made. I said this. Let me just write what I had mused here. I said, if you look at mathematics, supreme mathematics, as as equations, all right, in that sense, but not the calculation of interacting principles, then it seems as a gimmicky disgrace to the machinations of the many mathematical branches. That's literally what it looks like. Let me read that again. If you look at mathematics as equations and not the calculation of interacting principles, then it seems as a gimmicky disgrace. Then born in today's mathematics seems as a gimmicky disgrace to the machinations of the many mathematical branches. Seems like we'll never get there. And there's a good argument that the way we've been dealing with this knowledge, we never seem to get there. But there's so many things that we haven't got there yet. So this is a moot point. This is not just the surface, right? Um, and I wrote this. This might be something I have to explain. But I said, but this life isn't lived by the calculation of measured physicalities, but understood depth of moments of mental excursion and the daring forecasts of possibility made more and more probable each and every time a true insight is derived through this combinative analysis of intimate self-awareness. I threw a bomb there. Let's read that shit again. Okay? This life isn't lived by the calculation of measured physicalities, but understood, right? I'm talking about supreme math. Understood depth of moments of mental excursion, and then also the daring forecast of possibility, the what if, made more and more probable each and every time a true insight is derived through this combinative analysis of intimate self-awareness. What I'm literally saying here, though, is that when you start to learn to combine these principles, they become principles that you act upon, and you know how they interrelate in the real world where everything is interrelating, interlocking, and you can make that daring forecast. You could write your history ahead of time, as well as also analyze what has happened, right? And this gives you a more intimate self-awareness, the knowledge of self. I just said it real concentrated in here. You know what I mean? I always write jizza style, half short, twice strong. But that's the point. You know what I mean? And I said this. Let me see when I wrote this. I wrote this probably the last night good thing I wrote of the age of 46, because I'm 47 now. I wrote this Tuesday, December 20th, 4:41 p.m. Right? Um, but that's the point. When you go through supreme mathematics, you are supposed to be seeing your principles at play. The best example, the best example, wisdom knowledge. Yesterday, my born day, wisdom knowledge, though, right? This whole world is filled with things that we are learning of, and yet we must master it. So we engage the world and knowledge the world and come to understandings. See, even as we make sure that we don't wisdom knowledge and act before we do the knowledge properly. You see, and that's what that means, though, when we say that recycling, that not recycling, that circular reality of the Son of Man. God is the Son of Man. The Son is born; he becomes a man, right? But then the Son, that Son becomes a man, and then he has a son. That revolving reality goes back to go forward. See, it goes back to go forward. Child is born; it does not know as much, right? It is going back, and then it goes forward. It goes, and it is in greater depth, because that cipher of revolvement is not by expansion, but by the depth. See? And so when we look at things like wisdom, we're not saying that wisdom equals 4, 22 equals 4. That's not what is being done here. We're saying that wisdom is a is something that can be coupled and often must be coupled, and it borns the idea of culture freedom. See? Jarrell, you asked, peace, true divine. Jarrell, you said, peace, Jarrell. You said, how would anyone how would anyone be able to build without adding Bourning numbers? Those that say not to born the math this way, how do they go about doing so? They just build on the idea of wisdom, you know? I think they often come out okay, but I think that there has to be something there is nothing they can do without. But what I'm saying as a teacher is that supreme mathematics, though, isn't the spell that shows and proves you the true and living God. Okay? It is actually the definition of your nature. And so it becomes the greatest teaching tool for us to use. And in our daily life, though, it isn't a spell book, it's the nature of our reality. You know what I mean? It shows our reality. Right? And so when we look at as a all of us being, as we go out there with poor righteous teachers, this supreme mathematics is also a teaching tool, not only for the outside world as we share it, but also for ourselves to learn more of ourselves. Right? Excuse me. I'm sneezing here, but I'm also hot. So all right, I'm thirsty. I'm gonna get some water. hope. Thank you, Wise Prince. Um, I hope that makes some more sense. Um, I just don't want us to be throwing out things because see, we see the identification of something, or we see that it's a bad correlation to what people could become better mathematicians and stuff, because that is something that isn't really supported if we look at things. But I see it this way. I also see it differently. Like we say, listen, we're born into math, and I think it's stopped. Like I think it's stopping us from being mathematicians. I think that no, get what you want. Get what you want. I'm just kidding. But we we don't see the ideas of mathematics in that way, and it's not really leading to us being mathematicians of different sorts. But I kind of disagree with that, and it reminds me of when Firstborn Prince, when I asked him, why supreme mathematics wasn't added on. You know what I mean? Like, excuse me, why the actual facts had some of them wrong, and it was, and he told me the next generation, really, the babies are the greatest, and that they'll do better. You know what I'm saying? And we did. We fixed that up, and I think that we're still a young nation, though. You know what I mean? And there are gods that are being better with mathematics. There are gods that are expanding beyond just being great historians, being great at the sciences. You know what I'm saying? Even myself, though, where I don't have that acumen for the complex mathematics like that, but I do have for the other aspects. You know what I mean? And yeah, infinite. When you say that, yeah, there's a big difference with theoretical math and applied mathematics, and in many respects, um, the logic, the mathematical, the mathematical science of logic is what really supreme mathematics is all about, and how we build. And we would hope it extends to all the other mathematics as we go along. But I think it's sometimes unfairly discarded. And the main reason I would keep it though is because it has been a great teaching tool to show students how to couple um, it together. You know what I mean? Yeah, I agree with you, Infinite. I don't see supreme math as a philosophy. However, I do say that as someone who I see myself as someone who philosophizes and has philosophies, that it also allows a language of philosophy, as it allows a lot of other languages, of sorts. So I don't see that particularly as a philosophy. Um, but it allows me to philosophize because once you get into logic, you have to take these really theoretical ideas and you have to experiment with them. You know what I mean? And that's what it is. Like the scientists that people respect, though, they didn't do any experiments. A lot of the people, like what's his name, Stephen Hawking. You know what I mean? He's a theoretical physicist. He wasn't in the lab blowing shit up. Couldn't even move. Right? Wise Prince, you asked me, how do you see when we say the babies are the greatest, but there's a loose worship of the older brothers? I know they've done their jobs, but it is we're focused on praising the elders. Um, I think this. I think this. I think that some of that is more social media because we want to show that we have a history. Some of it is my generation because we're becoming elders. I mean, a lot of people call me an elder, and I take that. I see that in many respects. But and so we tend to realize that we're the ones with those stories that no one else will have. Like now, as we've gotten older, brothers as myself, as Infinite Mind, um, we have stories with elders that no one else will ever have. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Um, and that means something. So now we're keeping a history alive too. So it changes. But I think this. I don't know. I don't know if I have seen that emphasis away from the children. You know what I mean? Because when everything is concrete, like just building at the school, all of the concrete maneuvers, all of the actual maneuvers to have things done at the school and otherwise, they're all focused on the youth. You know, it doesn't really give a damn about the elders. So what you see online and things like that may be reverence though, but in the actual day-to-day reality of, let's say, a law school in Mecca, you don't you actually see none of that. You actually see none of that. You know what I'm saying? You don't really see a praise of elders. You know what I'm saying? You see a reverence in telling the stories and stuff, but it's only worthwhile if it's told to the elders. You know what I mean? Yo, yeah, I've been in that room too, God, like with them too, you know, and shit. I had disagreements with Abu Shahid, you know what I mean? And I had disagreements with Alabi, you know what I mean? A lot of people don't realize that a lot of the elders that I loved, my own teaching style was very unorthodox to them, and that I had great disagreements with them, you know what I mean? And that it was a problem a lot of times. I had to show them proof, and even when I showed them proof, they were like, "Well, I don't know if this will emphasize this or that." You know, they had to see, like, if I'm teaching all these other sciences, if I'm teaching these other books, does it have a relevance to the 120? Does it have a relevance to our basic tenets and teachings? Right? And Wise Prince, yeah. Again, social media, yeah. You know, but social media is a place of achievement. It isn't always a place to show goals. It's a place of achievement. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, um, how many posts have I had about writing over 70 journals, you know, over six, up to 70 journals, because it's number 70, right? Right? What's 70 times two? What's 69 times 200, right? Right? 1,300 pages, you know what I mean? I don't make posts about this. You don't make posts about the work, you know what I mean? I make posts of the nice training, but I don't make posts showing the rote parts of the training. I don't I never really post me lifting weights, you know what I'm saying? But I do that every day. I do that every training session. You know, I don't post the sprints. You know what I'm saying? So it's like social media is often for the achievements that we have had. You know what I'm saying? And some people um, don't really they need to know like how vast this thing has and how much we have achieved as a nation. You know what I mean? Right? So it's different. You know what I'm saying? Because like my social media is really to share achievements, but also to sell my work. You know, that's primarily where I get my book sales. It's through social media. So, you know, so yeah, it's a different place though. So you would see it that way, you know, and you would see it as well, you know, even in the work that if Mega does on the Allah School of Mecca page. You know, he's cataloging us that have done so much. And, you know, oh, that's peace symmetry. Thank you, man. You know what I mean? Um, I had a very simple born day. You know what I'm saying? Um, it's been back and forth. I told you know a lot of people know that I'm very sick elder, and like so to yesterday I have very relaxed born day. Nice gifts for my daughters, but today I spent all of the day going to different doctor's appointments. Um, you know, with my sick elder. You know what I mean? Um, so it's very daunting day, very daunting, very difficult day. You know, so that's been the year of the 22. So you know, it was just nice to have a nice day. But I'm gonna keep this thing going. You know what I mean? Right? We're gonna turn that mystery God celebration into a continued party for me. You know what I mean? But I'm glad you were able to hear some of that symmetry because I find that what you say about it, just like I did with Emblem, very valid. But in my experience, I find it to just be a very useful tool to allow people to couple principles. You see, people don't always, and I see this more also because as a martial artist, like people don't know what they're gonna do in a situation. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times I've seen people sell out. I've seen people fall off. I've seen people not fight. I've seen people lose fights. I've seen people not build. Um, and a lot of that is because they don't know, they're not prepared to what they would do under certain situations. So they don't identify when their nature is being, or they identify it incorrectly and take things that are an offense to them in a incorrect extreme. So it turns them into a checkers mind instead of having a chess mind. And any exercise that helps us couple and identify our principles is going to make supreme mathematics more of a dominant force. You know, right? Yeah, yeah. Let me get some water. I need some water. I'm still teaching. All right. IB, you said I know that the gods don't do this for likes, but show your brother some love. Hit the like button. Something. But okay. Um, yeah, but they were profound experiences that we had. You know what I mean? Like we're talking about freedom. Like the first time I was with Freedom, I was with Day Sun, and that whole build he has on the Iron Man album. Let's just say I heard the long build. I heard the long version of that. You know what I mean? Like these are the things that we was exposed to. You know what I mean? Symmetry, you said in DG, and perhaps I wasn't clear in my build about it. Not that it isn't useful because it has its own place as far as unfolding more perspectives. Right, right. You know? Absolutely, absolutely. You know? Wise Prince, you said I practice in my mind different ways. People would come at me because I had power refinement, and I built it quite a bit with brothers about it. I'm going to say this about refinement very quickly. It is something that wasn't given to everybody, and so it's legitimately there and not there. That they keep arguing that it is legitimately there for some, legitimately there, not there for others. Mainly Mecca, Medina. There for Mecca, not for Medina, right? If we generalize. Refinement, though, is always going to be a problem if you define it in the way of culture, because we just finished that degree. However, and it gets confused, it gets confusing because the way refinement is kind of insinuated in 120. You know what I'm saying? Right? One having knowledge, wisdom, understanding, culture, refinement is not a savage, the pursuit of happiness. Kind of says the same thing. You know what I mean? Kind of says the same thing. Um, and so it's still basically saying it's culture. And so that way of speaking that becomes a justification for it being incorrect. It's off. And it makes sense. You're using the same definition, and then now you're using a definition, so it's kind of effeminizing the next degree because the even numbers are considered more feminine. I get all that. However, the real use of refinement, though, was for a focus of one's power. The father, in the stories I heard, Umala and others, this idea of refinement not being with their power was not because they shouldn't have used, not because their power was invalid, but because it was being misused. And so it wasn't having good application where it was being used and the way that it was being used. And this is really the problem. And so to me, when I teach it, though, refinement means focus, like a laser has focus, right? Light could be light, but when you focus that light, it becomes a laser. So that's really the difference. You know what I mean? Yes.
May I throw this out?
Sure. You want to get on camera and throw it out?
No.
It's too bad. You'll be on the camera.
No.
You'll be on the camera. Everyone will see you. Everyone will see. There we go. Look, you've been seen. Child alert. Look. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Look, there's a child here. Look, this is my little Alma here.
No, Maria.
They want a ball. All right.
All
All right.
If you post that,
But yeah, it's infinite mind. That's a strong build infinite mind has about the idea. I never heard anyone say it like that, so profound, that it's conceptual, not contextual. You know what I mean? All right.
stop it.
Infinite mind, you said every principle of supreme math is an ideal translated into the English language. It didn't start in 63 to 64. This is just the English version of something that has always existed. Right. Really, Alma? Really? No, good. I'm just playing with you. But symmetry, you're right though. Like certain folks got it, some don't. You know what I mean? But I think that those who have it and just use it as another definition of refinement. Now, let's be clear. I consider the majority of people's builds on supreme mathematics rote, boring, and saying the same shit that was given to them on that old school paper that everybody used to get with the definitions. And I am tired of it though. So again, I keep saying this though, but multiply 20 years by 50. And this is how many times, how many weeks I've heard the same thing by students again and again. And they thought they just blew me away. Wisdom is the wise word spoken again and again. You know what I mean? So even if it was okay, I'd still have to demand something else. You know what I mean? Right? Sim, you said that my understanding is that refinement was given to brothers whose power was out of control, for lack of a better term. That's exactly the reason. You know what I mean? And you know, the father, he taught as he was in front of them, though. You know, he taught. A lot of people don't want to admit this, right? A lot of people don't want to admit this, though, but the style of teaching in Mecca was to teach more altruistically to the entire world. Like, for example, the way I was taught to teach, even though I'm from Medina, I went to get it in Mecca. And I got it in Mecca. We were taught, especially me, I literally was put under the wing in a different way than anybody else got it. And I was put under the wing to specifically teach at the school. Other brothers, other gods, they have their stories of how they started a civilization class, whatever. The way I was taught was deliberately given to me in order to teach at the school eventually. That's how knowledge me taught me. That's how saving knowledge taught me. And that's how my day one that brought me there, day son, Allah, he is the one that made up the course and devised the course for me to teach. So I was taught to teach this in a way that it could be given to the world. Whereas a lot of and the father taught many of the firstborn in Mecca that particular way. That's why we always hear these tough stories of firstborn prince. But if you really learn what firstborn prince, he was an exceptionally, I'm going to use this word, there's a better word for it, but while we think of him as yang and and fiery, when he really taught the heavy concepts to someone worthy of it, he was very yin, and he had the perfect way of expressing ideas, simple. He had a soft-spoken, articulate voice when he was teaching, and he got everything across. He wasn't just cursing. That is when he found students that were not right and exact. When he found students that were right and exact, he was teaching them in that way. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of misnomers about the teaching style, but Mecca had that teaching style. Doesn't mean they weren't rough. It means that they were representing the school to the world. No other school has it like that. Even the last school in Medina wasn't with that mentality that they're representing the school to the world. If anything, a last school in Medina has more of an oasis feel where, like, you're getting there, you're getting something in this little small place that no one else will get it. Whereas a law school in Mecca was on near 125th Street. It's open to the world, and it's saying we're sharing this to the whole world. So the type of teaching pedagogy is more outward, you know, and so that leads to a more altruistic style. So refinement given to them is going to be something because it's more important how the gods represent themselves, because how the teachings survive are going to be to the outside world is going to be very crucial. In other words, this anyone from anywhere else, Pilon, Medina, the desert, they all will teach the world. They all teach their neighborhoods. But if Mecca makes a mistake in how they present this knowledge, then that means that it could affect the way every other borough is being perceived and being respected and being recognized. That's a fact, and people don't like to admit that. You know what I mean? And we have the proof of what some people find positive, find negative. When it was Mecca that was putting all of these teachings and writing them down, whether people disagree with them or not. The work of Dumar Wadi, plus lessons that became legendary, whether people say they have mistakes or not, like the greatest story never told and things. These circulated everywhere. Nobody else was able to circulate teachings physically and like that. You know what I mean? So this is very important. This is very important differentiation. The gods from Mecca, when they were taught by the Father, they were taught more as warriors that are in their own particular tribe, fighting against the particular forces that are around them, and he taught them accordingly. You know what I mean? So they wouldn't be dealing with power because they're in ciphers where they're supposed to exude immediately and have complete unleashing of their power. We're talking about moments in time that become a tradition. You know what I mean? And I think people don't understand these differences, and they don't want to admit these differences because it's like it's not to say Mecca's better than this, better than that, but there's a reason that the Mecca is the root. You know what I mean? And people say, "Look, oh, this the Mecca gods getting credit for everything." No, the legacy of Allah School in Mecca is literally built on gods from Medina. Like people have no idea how many hours were spent in front of Allah's School in Medina by elders like Allah Shah, um, I just mentioned him, Freedom, right? Infinite Al-Jamar. Like I said, the best synergy I ever had with an older god in the classroom was this whole year, this wonderful year I had with Infinite Al-Jamar. You know, remembered in perfection. I love the god so much. And we taught he was there for the whole year, and we would just bounce off each other. You know, I would have set lessons, I would have set ideas, set students of mine, and I would go into things, and then I would see cues from him, and then he would go, and it would be handed back and forth. You know, we had this wonderful synergy where it wasn't just let me teach you, let me take over, son, and show you what it's all about. You know, it wasn't like that. You know what I'm saying? And it was wonderful. You know, one of the great teaching years of my life. I think that was 2012, 13, maybe. Yeah. Right. Let's see what we have here. They have sun temples in Bolivia, Egypt, Mexico, right? That's not coincidence. The base of Great Pyramid in Giza, the same exact measurement of the base of the Sun Temple Teotihuacan, Mexico. I know I butchered that. That ain't coincidence. That's supreme mathematics expressed on two opposite ends of the world by our ancient ancestors. That's a great parallel. You know? Great parallel. Wise Prince, you said, peace to God, saving knowledge. I love saving knowledge, though. He's the one that taught. And when my students get, for example, just one of the many things, when they get as a man thinketh first, that's from him. You know what I mean? That's from him. He's the one that sat me down and taught me the type of classroom settings I would I would have. You know what I mean? And I'm very few students were sat down and told what type of classroom settings they would get at Allah School of Mecca. I was taught in a different way. You know what I mean? I was taught with additional supplements, you know? And when I share that with everybody, it's preparing you to make classrooms out there. You know what I'm saying? Make your schools as you develop and build with the gods. You know what I mean? But the quality and the efficacy that I talk about achieving in the classroom can be achieved with one or two people. You know what I mean? Right? IB, you said there was a 7 by the name Shamik, always told me, may the foundation of the nation always remain with you. I see that. I see that. Sim, you said even the principles of hermetics and ancient Kemet dealt with the observation of mathematics taught the Kabbalion. Absolutely. That, right? If you said processional calendars have been used by ancient civilizations in all four corners of the world, detailing astronomical events and calculating predictions. They use architecture to reflect the universe and tell stories of not only the stars and mythological stories, but also predicting things to come in, including the birth of specific powerful individuals. That's crazy. That was living mathematics, not to mention those temples were built as schools to teach knowledge, something they were built in a different Quran. 10th degree to 1 to 10, right? Schools other the other schools of thought. Right? The knowledge degree in the 1 to 40. I see that. Sim, you said Dumar had my young mind in a blender when he would build. Oh man. Yeah, he was potent. He was amazing. You know what I mean? You know, when he would sell his national statements though, $3. They were $3 each. When he had his long trench coat, it was like, you know, like when you always see the cliche of Times Square, you know, hustlers, and they open it and you see all the watches and stuff. He would pull out his plus lessons like that. I feel like he'd be talking, he'd be talking to me, and I would buy everything from him. That's really where I spent my money. I didn't spend my money on clothing with the flag on. I spent it on the plus lessons from the gods, the publications, and all the books that Sekou, who returned to the essence recently, remembered in perfection, and Savior Knowledge was selling. And you know, there was one time where I had bought a lot of them, and I was like, dude, I don't know if I think I've bought pretty much everything you have, you know, unless you wrote something new. And he kept saying, "Do you have this?" And he was pulling them out. And I was like, "Where are these coming from?" It was like it was coming out of like his sleeve. You know what I mean? Do you have, you know, the planetary this? You have this about Johnny Neckbone. You have this, you know. And he was pulling out all this stuff. And I was like, I do. I have that one. I have this one. No, I don't have that one. No, I don't have that one. Man, he must have got like $3 a piece. Though I must have spent like a quick 15 with him though. I thought I had all of them though. But man, he was charismatic though. He was charismatic though. You know what I mean? Charismatic. I was talking about him in another class session when Inf Mega was recording, you know. But a dynamic style, one of the greatest self-style wisdoms we ever seen. You know? That was dynamic as hell. I mean,
Hey, Bobby, how do you turn on the fan?
you want the fan on?
Yeah, it's hot.
All right, let's turn it on. Oh, yeah, I almost heard shit there. I almost heard shit there. Be careful. Be careful. Be careful. Be careful.
Hey, look, it's so
All right. All right. Yeah, so Jai Key. Yeah, Jai Key. You know, Jai Key was really, really humble. You know what I mean? Yeah, Dumar could take you to Pluto and back in less than 60 seconds. You know what I mean? And you know what, too? You know, speaking of that symmetry, like, I can't say that this is somewhere anyone could really go or try to go. But if I was to say, let's not bore into mathematics anymore, I also would take away this combination that I always expect the student to have a ability to preserve the truth that we are teaching and show and prove that truth that we are preserving, but also that that student must have a daring innovation and be daring to innovate something new. And those experiments to be done in the classroom that show that daring innovation, um, they may not be suitable in their real life. They might not be as applicable, but they develop themselves into what will be applicable for themselves. And I see Borning degrees and getting there because that's to the most extreme effect. Two people come to mind, Dumar and definitely Wise Jamel. Like I don't teach borning words out, like knowledge borns whatever and wisdom borns this. But Wise Jamel did that. And it was an extreme version of what we're talking about here. And it was an extreme version because that was the way that he was coupling. And a lot of people didn't realize that. Excuse me. When he did that, it wasn't to say knowledge borns this and that that's what that means, but that we should always remember that knowledge equates to whatever that born to. I forget though, because I don't know. But these things were important. And there were important principles that he coupled them with, you know? And so whether they went to extremes that Dumar, because Dumar would go to extremes, but inside the degrees, where he would be borning the, you know, the square mileage of the planet Earth all to one thing, or his build on the depth and the insights to 24,896 versus 25,000. And he had a whole build on that and plus lesson. I have to look for that, you know. Um, you know, but I haven't read these in years. I finally found that giant box, but um, I haven't had the time to look through it and go through it. But but Dumar and Wise Jamel are examples of people that really went through that. You know what I mean? I when you say putting wisdom before knowledge, not bringing forth an understanding is 21. 2 plus 1 equals 3, but not principally. Expand on that. I'm not sure everything that you're saying there's something I'm kind of agreeing with, but it needs to be more fleshed out. True Divine, you said also he, Dumar, had a great build on 17 million plus 2 million, make it total 19 million. All of the planet Earth, there are 4 billion, 400 million. Yes, he did. Again, I really have to mine all of them. I bought so many national statements that and you know what's interesting? We always kept it simple and everything. He talked about keeping it simple all the time, but he didn't keep it simple. So his ability to keep it simple wasn't in what he was doing. It was in the way that he was communicating it. And of course, his abilities as an orator. You know, because like I said this in the earlier video, he had everything. He had style, he had grace, he was handsome, he had perfect projected, his voice had perfect projection, articulation, smoothness, he had syncopation, he had everything that someone could build, needed to engage the student. You know what I mean? And whether on the street level or in the classroom level or in the lecture hall, right? And so when your abilities are greater, you can actually engage in more ideas. You can share more ideas, and that's something people don't recognize all the time either. And as a student or someone who's gotten through 120 and starting to build, the first thing that you should really look at is the quality of how you're building. You know what I mean? Um, and that's why you want to go for the concentrated build. You want to learn how to build for the street. That's where you first practice. You first practice to share principles and ideas in a simple way that shows the complexity and shows the possibility for more immediately, right? And that has to be done quickly, succinctly, and with great engagement. Because when you're on the street, you can't just be lecturing. You know what I'm saying? You can't be lecturing, you know, right? Peace, Mr. Supreme. All right, I'll take a break here. I've been really going off in here and everything. I want everybody to tell me if they have any questions or anything like that.
You want them to be poison because this blanket is poison.
Let's see. Okay, so by the way, also too, there's only one more class session of the year, so I'm gonna collect some of these details about planning. I think I had some plus lessons about planning and things like that. You know what I mean? Is that a question for me, Jay? Wisdom knowledge doesn't born understanding only possibility. Um, the truth is that in many respects, like the universe, we in our daily lives have to maneuver through things that we don't know with whatever way we can, and sometimes we get knowledge as in post haste. You know what I mean? After the fact. And sometimes that gives one a different understanding too. Because understanding isn't just a truth of insight that is unique to you. It is also because of its reality, of the way that you got to that insight, you know? So wisdom knowledge can lead to that as well. Mhm. Okay, Smells, you said as in we do add numerals with attached principles, but it must fit respectively, not just adding up numbers. Oh, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. You know what I mean? Because we could get lost in all that kind of stuff too. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
True self, peace. No problem. You just go back. You know what I mean? Right? That's why it's here. That's why it's recorded and stuff. But again, any questions that people have, please let me know. Please let me know. I had this particular build and Let me see if I saw your last comment. Let me see. Okay, on my channel, we had a build about the yellow seed not being a 120. I said he's in the knowledge degree in the 1 to 10, the Asiatic. I think this. Something is not necessarily there in 120. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. That's one thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing in there saying the black woman this, the black woman that, or the black woman is the earth. You know what I'm saying? Um, so that doesn't mean that it does not exist. You know what I'm saying? Um, we talk about teaching hadith and things like that, but when we learn what the Father taught, and what the Father taught the firstborn and first fruit was the understanding of this knowledge of self. And he extracted an understanding, though, because while we say that the understanding seed, you don't see it in 120, but remember, 120 is an extraction of certain teachings. The 600-year process that Elijah Muhammad spoke about did go to the understanding seed. You know what I'm saying? So the presence of the understanding seed was known. Okay, so this leads a lot of people to say that the understanding seed was made and all that kind of other shit. This is incorrect. You know what I'm saying? Right? But it may it does include him if you want to use the Asiatic as that umbrella term. You know what I'm saying? But the Asiatic really meant the entire Pan Asia, Pangea, the entire Earth. So it would include him, but also by default include him if you looked at the narrow definition, if you want to be of how people used Asiatic then. You know what I mean? Right? Right. But it's really all about that. What is original? Original is the original people that could not be made through the grafting process. You see what I'm saying? And when we study genetically, though, are we saying that the yellow seed could only be made during the grafting process? And we'd also have to be saying that they have limited strength and capabilities, right? That's a good question, right? Let me take a break. I want people to think about that.
Maria, it's 7:11. Has it passed 7 o'clock? Maria, look. Has it passed 7 o'clock? Look. Yes. Do it again.
Extended break. All right, I'm back. All right, let me see what was written here. Um, okay, let me go back. Okay. True self. You said as long as your wise words, ways, and actions match my wise ways and words and actions across the culture scene, and victory is or has been achieved. See, true self. That's something I would like to see a longer exposition on, build, written or spoken, because does your ways words, ways, and actions have to match? And what do you mean by match? You know, do they have to be the same? They have to be similar on the same wavelength. How? This is important because the culture is made by interlocking people's ways and actions, right? Different ways, wise words, and different wise ways and actions combine and become a culture, right? So, which one would be logical? You know, how exact do they have to be? You know, for this to mesh and to be useful. You know, if you said the nation has different classifications, black, brown, yellow seeds, yeah, yeah. If you said I thought the yellow was a Chinese, you know, there's different ways. I'll give you general. Firstborn Prince used to tell me black, brown, yellow um, is really just the shades, you know. So like a person like me could be seen as a brown or yellow seed. Um, Mainly yellow, also because phenotypically, right? I could be seen as a yellow seed in a lot, like because Prince was seen as a yellow seed. You know what I'm saying? Now others like Infinite Al Jamar, they saw it as like regional. So because I'm coming from the Caribbean, Latin America, South America, Caribbean, right down south, like that. Um, he saw me as a brown seed. Okay, and by that definition, it still would be a little bit awkward where Firstborn Prince would be, because Firstborn Prince is from a Black American. So I never asked him, but how would that go? You know what I'm saying? So it'd probably be like a combination, a black seed of the brown. So some elders saw it regionally, which caused a little bit of a confusion. You know what I'm saying? But it showed the depth of where the branches of us and all that. And that's what they were trying to do. Um, but the way that we were taught was knowledge, wisdom, understanding, black, brown, yellow, and that the way I see it is that genetically they all would come about naturally, because the differences that we see in these different original shades is really the generations, mass amount of generations that they spent on different landscapes. You know what I mean? As in, say, the Mongolians, what was classified as a Mongolian. These are the same original people out of Africa, but they spent much time, on that part of the world. Mr. Supreme said, "Do you think plus lessons are valuable in gaining understanding of our lessons?" Listen, I've taught classes with my own plus lessons. I read. There are plus lessons I cherish, and there are plus lessons that I disagree with that cause a lot of articulation of my own in counter thought, cause my own insights to be defined. So we have to be writing down our own insights, and when they're defined as plus lessons, it allows us to acknowledge that they are our own insights and understandings. So it's important. We have to keep writing. We have to keep thinking. We have to keep challenging thought. All right. I'm not sure what wise prince you're saying no to because two black seeds can produce a yellow seed. Yeah, that's a good question. What's a yellow seed got? Brothers in the nation been calling me yellow since I got knowledge. I didn't grow up calling myself yellow. Yeah. What's interesting, um, and see God divine justice though, what's more to the build there? In the black man exists two germs. You know what I'm saying? Because just like the wisdom build degree doesn't go through the whole grafting process, this grafting process was said to be 600 years. You see? It was said to be 600 years, right? So it inevitably has the three original black, brown, yellow, and then finally the grafted, right? So all the separation is achieved, and then you get to the grafted, you know, and that's where that yellow seed comes in, you know, and just because it's not a classification that we was called from, these classifications, us not being called certain things, is really because of the cultures we come from. So that doesn't necessarily discount it, right? If it doesn't, you know what I'm saying? And you're right though. This is something I learned from Infinite Al Jamar too. What you saying that Elijah called the Japanese the brown seed, right? He called the Native American red. And so when we look at it in many ways, what the father did, black, brown, yellow, that was his way of reducing and classifying in a more concise way that had to do with the patterns of the 200 grafting process years. So those original seeds, you know what I mean? So that's how I saw it though. I don't think that they're I don't think that they're rigid. I don't think that they can't be flexible. But in our nation though, that's what the father was doing because he was trying to show a certain point that within that realm of the 16 shades, he said there are 16 shades. So that means that to him there was 16. And that means that they are bracketed though in those major aspects. One, two, three. You know what I'm saying? Remember, in the entire in this entire teaching, reality of teachings of the 5%, us gods and earths, this nation, this idea of one, two, three is so crucial. And to take that pattern into everything is really what he was doing. And some of those patterns though have to take into account they have to take into account um the way that we teach, the focus of what the father was teaching, you know what I mean? And a way to unite the seeds that had varying shades, you know what I mean? And these shades also are affected in reality. You know what I'm saying? There are different experiences I go through because of my shade that a black seed, right? That a black and a brown would have and also don't have. You know what I'm saying? So I agree with Sim as well. Seeds are not necessarily bound to geographics, though, right? But yeah, I agree with Infinite Mind. That see things confusing doesn't seem to hold too much weight in actual science of biology and genetics. No, it doesn't. I think a lot of it is identification. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of it is identification. And I think that to equate it to the understanding cipher degree, a very, very misunderstood degree in the 1 to 40, is not complete. It has to do with a classification that the Father made that would unite us, though, based on how we are perceived to the world and how we will move together. Remember, because a lot of the reasons he classified black, brown, yellow was not just the cultures, because there wasn't really that many different cultures of original people that the Father was teaching at that one time. There were Puerto Ricans and stuff like that, but not really many Africans, not really, and not that many other black, English Caribbean, you know what I mean? So these classifications, they have more to do with how he's having us move, and he always, older gods used to always tell me that, yeah, of understanding seeds should be moving with the black seed, like you should always move with the different seeds. And that's like to cover the gamut of reactions and possibilities. Because remember, the time that the Father was alive, these young men are teaching something that is completely foreign to the world. Okay? Because though people think they taught it to the world, they did not. Okay? They did not. The Nation of Islam did not teach this knowledge that is even in their degrees. They did not teach it to the world. They kept it to themselves. If we know anything about these lessons, it is, to me, at least 90% because of what we taught outside. These They weren't out there saying the supreme wisdom out on the street. They weren't teaching it to the populace. So what people know about this stuff was these young men that were going out there and doing this. You know? And so he had to pack them based with that mentality of knowledge, wisdom, understanding, how you'll be perceived, how you move. You know what I'm saying? Knowledge, wisdom does the knowledge. Wisdom seed speaks. The understanding shares an insight. You know what I'm saying? There's reasons for this, though, because of the perspectives that were being gained, the students that he had. I think Firstborn Prince has a lot to do with that. You know what I'm saying? Right? Wise Prince, you say he's including the main body of Japanese people. When you look at the slot of the population of the Yellow Nation, the poor rules of the darker people, the lighter are usually better off. Maybe. I don't think that's what the Father was doing, though, when he was bracketing, though. That wasn't what he was doing. It had to do with the experience of Black Americans of different shades. You know what I'm saying? He was defining all of the original people throughout the world. But that black, brown, yellow was a way of movement for those, and that's why it was it's more cultural and social than it is genetically. You know what I'm saying? Because the Father used to also say that the yellow seed has the black germ within him. You know what I'm saying? And there's a reason for that, because every yellow seed is really just a brown seed of a different shade. It's really just a brown seed. You know what I'm saying? Okay, the Ainu were the original people we can now call Japan. Symmetry says. Okay. Also, too, Wise Prince, when we talk about dominant and recessive, that's where a lot of people start the arguments too, because dominant and recessive, we think of strong and weaker. That's not necessarily the case, though. You have to look at it more like those are the words used and they are functional. But when we talk about the original peoples, we're talking about, when we talk about dominant recessive, we're talking more like limbs on a body. Okay? Limbs on a body. Where the arms could be seen as recessive and the legs dominant, but that doesn't mean that the arms are weak or useless. They're weaker technically, but they can do detailed things that the legs cannot do. Right? So there is an add-on, there is a use, and there is a supreme use for all of the original germs, right? Because there's a lot of people that look at the degrees and they'll be like, the black germ is more crucial than the brown germ. No, the black man's body is made up of the black and brown germs. So those both germs make up that black man. Right? If in mind, you said my point is, what do the experts say about it? What exactly is classified as a black seed or a brown seed or yellow according to actual genetics, because if it's based on skin pigment? Well, I'll say this though. When we talk about black and brown, we're talking about the melanosomes. However, there are yellow pigments that are separate and also crucial to the strength of the actual cell. You know what I'm saying? That's something that's in T. Owens Moore's book. You know what I mean? So that's something that's in there as well. So if we were to technically research deeper and say that the yellow shade has a distinct reality, those yellow pigments are crucial as well. And they do have a reality to the strength of the skin. So I think the research is young. Research hasn't been done in this perspective. So to say that we get that is a little bit different. You know what I'm saying? Don't always see it that way. You know. There's a lot of good comments here. Let me go back. Push me to the end. Okay. God, divine justice, peace. That's the understanding of the cipher, though. So the question is, can you born a yellow seed without grafting? And I would say yes. Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely agree with that. That's what I meant. Um, you're right, Infinite Mind. We don't want to say things that we don't know are actual facts. You know what I mean? Um, that's why I refer you to the TM's movement, Science of Myth and Melody. Right. Good conversation here. That's the thing with all the sciences of us being God, us being original, is that there isn't definitive literature about everything that we say. You know what I'm saying? And whenever we do come to these conclusions, we have to analyze. We have to do our own analysis. You know what I'm saying? That's peace symmetry. That's your lineage. That's powerful lineage. Wise Prince, you said the two black seeds and yellow seeds in reference to what you asked. Is the yellow seed only produced by grafting? I said no. Sure, sure. Okay. And Infinite Mind, you are right though. We are analyzing a lot of works, and that goes for history too. That goes for history too. Right? All right. I see Wise Prince and Infinite Mind going back and forth here. I feel like you both kind of get the point. When juxtaposed with brown and black, some would say I'm yellow seed. When juxtaposed with black and yellow, I would be brown. That's a great point, Symmetry. I think that's kind of like the conundrum that Firstborn Prince was in, you know? And from what I knew of Firstborn Prince, he said he would say he was a yellow seed because of all that. Yeah, yeah. I remember reading about that too, where Elijah said that. You know, scientific haplogroups, right? Right. Yeah. See, that's a thing that I spoke about as well, that I was alluding to. Uh, I'm forgetting the name of this book about genetics, and also the origins of man. I think it's called the book "All Everyone is African." Um, But calm Islamly, like when you said in South Asia, you can see the transition of people from brown to yellow as you move eastwards, right? But a lot of this is environmental. You know what I'm saying? A lot of it is environmental. You know, and that's what I'm saying. Though. A lot of the things that we're talking about are phenotypes, and these phenotypes develop not for us in this modern day age where we're all suffering the same kind of not just westernized approach, but westernized reality. But in the ancient travels of people, they would be on certain places for thousands of years. It just, adapting to that particular environment, considerably. And that's true as well. The Sim says the continent of Africa has the greatest variance of genetic expression, meaning all the seeds can be found there. Absolutely. Wise Prince, you said Sunnis. Indeed, because my children have different shades of black and brown, they have the same knowledge and wisdom. Their phenotypes are expressed differently. Exactly. Interesting, Jay. Interesting. There's a family history there. The Hakka people. Interesting. You know what's funny? I think infinite mind, I think you discount the things that you've read. You know what I'm saying? Because the greatest scholars, and we learned this from Ivan Van Sertima, it isn't all, history and science, a lot of it is theoretical. So it actually depends on what you have seen done and then analyzing the possibilities of what can be done or what can be that become crucial. So many of the theories that are useful, that are applicable, and for the most part are real right now in science, um, they're not made by people that were in laboratories. They're made by people that are theoretical, that are analyzing the doctrines and the papers that have by experiments. So a lot of times, and this is a truth, I've always gone with as a reader, the quality of what you read and the quality of what you can understand, right? And how you can draw up conclusions and possibilities from it, really is what makes one a real scientist, you know, not necessarily what's in the lab, you know. Some of the sciences, I don't remember his name, but a lot of the scientists that founded, if I remember correctly, uh, magnetism and the forces. Um, a lot of his ideas were theoretical. They were theoretical, and then he sought to prove them. So something to take note of. I wouldn't discount the quality of our learning. Not saying you are, of course, though. Never that. Right? So even though we're not the primary source, doesn't mean that we cannot make primary worthy questions and possibilities. You know what I'm saying? When the World Was Black, yeah, that's a good book. I have not finished that yet. Mm. And I agree with that, Jay, as well. Black existence sees regardless of what you see with your physical eyes. Yeah. Mr. Supreme, you said Sunez. After you announce 120 meeting on CAP, how do you go about linking degrees and teaching yourself to gain a deeper understanding of lessons? This has to be done not when you finish, but as you go through 120. You know what I'm saying? And if someone has a great foundation in mathematics, then they'll be able to go through 120 in that way that will be useful. You know what I'm saying? So it's about developing questions, seeing the possibilities of the questions, all of these things. You know what I'm saying? As we go. Yeah, that's interesting. Y'all got all the shades and stuff. Yeah. If you said Sunnis, I wouldn't say I disregard them. I would say I've read what they wrote and much of it makes sense. But how much on the subject do I really know? Yeah, no, I get that too. Yeah, I get that too. Why, as you said it, so if two black seeds can produce yellow and two brown seeds can produce yellow, then yellow was not grafted. It's original. That's my point. The original men and women produce all original people. Yeah, that's really the build. No, 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 no. A true divine Einstein wasn't the one I was talking about. No. Yeah, Graham Hancock's an example of that kind of what I'm talking about. Yeah, yeah. I like that word, anthropometry. Peace to the God, infinite mind. Peace, God. Likewise, God. Love you, God. All right. I don't. Some people argue that the red seed is not original, and I don't see why he wouldn't be, because it's like a combination of originals. So I don't know why, but people do argue that it's not. I don't. Even if it's a mix of white and half original, as Kam Islami says, it still would be original. So I've never liked that concept of the red seed. You know, some people call Malcolm the red seed, and he's original though. Or they equate it to the Native American. But this idea of the red man has its roots though in the killing of the original scalpers was the devils, and when they scalped and collected the head, the skin of the original people that they were scalping, all bloody and red, that's what called the red man, because that person would be left all red with their own blood, right? Just all over themselves. It's a gruesome spectacle, you know. Now, if you say that particular people, like Symmetry is saying, like those who are exiled from India, are what makes up the red, it'd be the only way because they wouldn't be devil. They wouldn't be as far as their genetics. It had to be from the mindset, you know. But in that, yeah, right? So that's from what I know too. Yeah, wise. Yeah, yeah. See, I don't attribute the red seed or like definitively say that the red seed is the exile from India, only because I always felt that those exiled from India, their history is not told in the proper detail. I'm not satisfied with it. Whether that means I'm not satisfied with my research or what people have said, it's still incomplete to me because I was taught that they just didn't bear witness that the original man was God. That doesn't mean that they didn't that they were discounting themselves. They may have been discounting themselves too, right?
I want to hear this joke. I want to hear this joke. Instead of more joke. Dad, wow, are you finished with the living room? No, look at it. Wow. I would tell everyone like this was your idea.
Okay.
You have to say this. Hey guys, my cousin.
That's interesting too. They got kicked out for eating meat.
I told this couple about my cousin about you. Really? What did you say about me? I told you about your school.
See, that's interesting, Sim, because we still have the same problem. Here's why we have a problem, though, right? Because we say, excuse me, when we say when we say that someone's exiled, we could say that it has like its own etymology of where it comes from and everything. But the problem is that the first way to look at a word in 120, the word's immediate etymology isn't toward the meaning of the word etymologically, but the way that Elijah meant the word to be. You know what I'm saying? And based on his limited education, I'm not so sure that that would have been a word he used if he meant that. You know what I'm saying? That they wandered. You know what I'm saying? So just a thought because I think the first etymological cue in anything in 120 goes back to what we think, what we might suppose that Elijah Muhammad was trying to say with this answer. You know what I'm saying? But I just think it's an incorrect history. You know what I mean? Not incorrect, incomplete history. Incomplete is the word I meant. Incomplete history. You know, because we still have histories that consider the indigenous here to be just savages all over, not the refined tribal communities that actually existed, the interlocking civilizations, um, the massively, excessively detailed, agricultural farming systems that they developed. You know what I'm saying? Right? Right. So, and that travel from India as well. That those original people there. You know what I mean? So it's difficult. There's more to uncover with that. That's why a lot of the proper history is actually revealed through reading because we have to read what was there, and it's the way that we're going to analyze it. It asks distinct questions that are really going to get us to these answers. And that's why the questions that we make, though, are really what the theoretical scientist is all about. And in many respects, though, when we deal with knowledge of self, we deal with 120, supreme math. In many respects, we are theoretical mathematicians in that sense. Rakeem, thank you. Appreciate that. That is interesting, Jarrell. That remains to be seen, though. You know what I'm saying? Because there's no real agreement on what those 2 million. You know what I'm saying? If the 2 million found his brother, I mean, those are really those on the reservations. Those who survive. You know what I mean? So, and again, the so-called what is the Black American, and then what is the Native American here? Those are very mixed realities. That's why this whole FBA argument is very awkward. They don't know their history. You know what I'm saying? Um, this idea of the these differences, distinct differences between the original Black American and the original Native American, and the Native Americans as we know them today taking over the Black American. It doesn't show you that, first of all, they were original people that go from Africa to where they are, then to America, but also that there are two waves. There are many waves. There are two distinct large waves. The 16,000 years ago is just one of them, right? And that interaction also in America, the classifications. That's why Jack Forbes research is crucial. And I hear even gods that get on this FBA shit, and it's like they have the Jack Forbes research and they still don't understand it. They don't understand it. But what we consider a Black American was very interfused with what was Native American. So um, many Black Americans were being called Native American, right? And many of the Native Americans that we know of were being mixed in with the Black Americans. You know what I mean? Because throughout that history, though, one of the things they said was that you could exile the so-called Indian, but you cannot enslave him. And so that changes the whole thing. Because what if you want to enslave these particular people? What if it's more lucrative to do that? You see what I'm saying? So then we get reclassifications of original people all the time. You know what I mean? And let alone these people's natural mixture already. You know what I mean? Their unity and their mixture, all right? All of that taking place. You know what I'm saying? Right? It's absolutely something important there. Wise Prince, you said do I do interviews on other channels? I'd love to have you on page. It'd be an honor. I don't lot other gods that have forums. I haven't been interviewed that much. 5% Connection. I did a podcast with them, interviewed with them. Most of the nearly all. I do a lot of interviews, but it's really for my work in hip hop. But it's really people that are asking. You know what I'm saying? So, you know. But it'd be an honor, absolutely. Yeah, see, that's real. That's real. You know what I mean? These migrations, they came from somewhere, so it's very crucial. You know what I mean? Symmetry, you said most Native Americans descend from a small number of DNA lineage, or 90% of the indigenous people of the Americas fall into the haplogroup A, B, C, and D, mitochondrial DNA. Malik, peace, God. Wisdom, born in the proper culture by adding righteous movement. All right. And to divine words and manifesting victory through this bond. I see it. Sim, continued haplogroup A, C, and D also occur in Siberian people, saying that these people took land routes into the Americas. But the B lineage symmetry continues isn't found anywhere near this route. They took the C route to this part of the planet. The book Anacalypsis talks about 2 million Indians. I wonder if I have that book. I'm not sure. Let me see. All right. This is great information, symmetry. There's a haplogroup X, which isn't found among the natives here, except for some Algonquins and Ojibwa, Navajo, and Sale. Very interesting. Oh, Darkham had someone on there talking about that. Yeah, it's a Godfrey Higgins book. I could have sworn I had that book. Thought I did. So used to having so many, I get surprised when I don't have something. Dealing with yoni energy. Hmm. Very interesting. I could do the announce that. Malik, I find that days that are Supreme Math is double are a little harder to express. I, as in 11, now it's 22, wisdom. It's about the combination. You know what I'm saying? How do you combine like principles together? You know, that's the problem. You know what I mean? Like principles are from different people, or they're different pieces of knowledge, or different types of ways and actions, or ways and actions from different people, or knowledge from different people, right? Combining these gives us different perspectives and possibilities. That's interesting math that you just did there. You know what I'm saying? These are the kind of forays into that math that Dumar used to do all the time. He would do stuff like that. I think it does have some kind of insight that could be drawn from it. Sim, you said Group X originated by splitting off from Group N somewhere in the root of civilization, East Africa nearest approximately 35,000 years ago. Then Group X split into two main branches. X1 remained in the root, and X2 traveled all over the planet. Interesting. Very interesting. That's another way too. No knowledge, have wise wisdom. Okay. Certainly a good mental exercise. These are the kind of things you should be doing. Especially the young student. They should be in that laboratory experimenting in such a way. All right, Wednesday and Friday will probably work. You know, either of those days. Yeah. Well, immediately wise prince, you're not gonna be an effective 5%. That's for sure. You'll be at 5%. Though. You're not gonna be that good, right? I mean, you'll be a good ball player if you can't score, right? In the group X2 participated two major migrations around 16,000 from India. Right. Okay. That's a great tracing, Sim. That's a great tracing. I appreciate that add-on. Those added on to me too. You know. Indeed. All right. How, Wise, you said, how do you think you consistently change or alter the trajectory of the school? Man, I don't know how to answer that question. You know what I mean? Because if I answer it a certain way, it's like I'm saying that I didn't have any effect or whatever. Or if I do answer it a certain way, it'll be like I'm talking shit about myself. I don't know how to answer that though. You know? I know that I did something at the school no one's ever done. Um, I know for a fact that me teaching at the school, especially specific years, um, showed and proved that the school was a viable place because I was the only thing there for a long time, especially during the 2000s. I was the only one teaching it, you know. So I also think that I gave it a concrete reality because I had a distinct curriculum, you know. Um, I think I don't think I don't I'm not saying I invented anything, but I introduced a distinct uh, type of pedagogy that wasn't really embraced at the root. And then I showed how it's viable in the classroom. You know what I'm saying? Um, a lot of written work, reading, particular reading work, the more concrete expectations of the success of the student outside the classroom. Okay, what I mean by that is I don't measure the success of a student. Tired of looking at this thing for so close. I don't measure the success of a student by how well they knowledge 120, how well they quote, things like that, um, how well they understand supreme math, how well that they apply it into and in life situations, and most importantly, how they discover themselves. You know what I mean? Discover their gifts, their talents, the willingness to explore those gifts and talents. This is something that that isn't too thought of. You know, right? The book Nicholas Wade that touched on these migrations. Okay, see, and it's the type of books. I have such a large book collection, and Sim, you put me onto books that are exactly in the wavelength that I want to study, and yet, so it always reminds me there's so many more things to find and read, though. Yeah, I think I have to say that, especially from the 2010s on, because of what I've done in hip hop, I think that um, I influenced some of that trajectory, the influence of the gods as builders, where people just look at for them in big pop stars, and not really in the way of thought, So it's hard to say, you know what I'm saying, because that's not what I was trying to do at all. Like any of this trajectory stuff, my mentality in building was to make what I could do and just to do it at the highest level of extreme, because it's how I do everything. And I don't think I could have learned anything I learned like that. I couldn't have learned martial arts like that. A lot of people don't know. I started martial arts though, and I was already 20, about literally about like I started it this week, the week before I turned my born day in 2000. So that means I was about to turn 25. So in kung fu years, like martial arts, that's already old. Like can't really stretch like that. That's why people see me. I can't do certain things like other agility things, and then I can do things that don't make sense for my age. You know what I'm saying? But it's the way that I was that I was learning, the mentality that I have though. Um, Certainly the history. I always tell people I'm a late bloomer. I started late with things. I did the knowledge a long time. You know what I mean? So when I went in to do stuff in the street, in the industry, I did it very, very, very calculated, very intensely, as far as the intensity. It's very calculated though. But I think that's also for other people to say. Like that's a honor to somebody say I'm a institution in the community. But I don't honestly. I keep it real. I don't know what I am in the community. I just go build with individuals and they mount up. I don't know. Um, like I don't wake up and say I'm an institution. You know what I'm saying? Or what I'm doing. I don't feel it that way. I don't feel it that way. That's because a lot of people don't know the daily life that I live. They know the daily work that I live, how much work I have to put in to do certain things. But and this is what I was saying when I had that spirited build is people don't really know the sacrifice of a 5%, especially those who seek to keep something amiss. See, I say this again. The 5% is that build throughout the whole world, the honorable. They're keeping something that is in their heart alive in their nature, who they are, who they must be, and they keep it alive. But that wasn't the task that I was given only. The task I was given was to keep a particular school alive by as I keep myself thriving. You know what I'm saying? And because of that, though, many things get sacrificed, though. You know what I'm saying? Right? So it is a difficult life. It is not an easy life. You know what I'm saying? And people that are getting the knowledge now is a nice full circle moment because I think that anyone can get the knowledge at any age, though there are different expectations and different students. You know, Sekou who returned.
was a legend. Xavier Knowledge told me he don't teach the young, but he gave it to him. He gave it to him because he had something to add on to the nation, and that was crucial to the youth. See, that's why I never discount an older student. You know, older student can do two things. They can create things that the world will see. Older student, they have children and youth that they can reach. You know what I'm saying? So the world always needs more teachers of age. You know what I'm saying? And it needs creators of all ages. Though it's we teach the babies, we teach the young, but one of the fallouts with that is that as especially as black and brown people, we have this assumption that you only have this way, this life of sharing something great to the world when you're young. You know what I'm saying? So what happens is that when you're older, it seems like it's over, and that's not something that burdens the grafted man. You know what I'm saying? And some things, major builds, major creations, major insights, are not going to be made by people in their 20s and 30s, teens, 20s, 30s, but they are going to be made by by people um, that have been building since then, even if they had or didn't have the knowledge itself. You know, so that's important, though. You know what I'm saying? And look, Sim, you shared all this stuff about the haplogroups and stuff like that. This is stuff that I haven't researched in a while. The last genetics book I read was a few years ago, and I have a collection of them. You know what I'm saying? In the last couple of years, I've been writing so much music writing that I've been studying music writing of all sorts because I have to build up my vocabulary. I'm finishing a book about just this year's hip hop, and it's over easily going to be over most likely 500 pages. I have to have a very detailed vocabulary to be able to define 500 plus albums where they're detailed in such a way that it's valuable to the reader. And so your research takes you different places that you need to go. You know what I'm saying? Right? Whereas my research into, let's say, the ancient texts of Taoism, Zen, different forms of Buddhism, those were in my early years as a martial artist because I was trying to study what would be the way that I would go about this fighting. You know what I'm saying? And then now that I have it though, now most of my, let's say, martial research is actually physical. I watch very little martial arts. I study very few martial arts texts. You know what I mean? But now the research is very physical as far as exploration into how I move. You know, um, so that these are different things. Like these are different levels. You know what I'm saying? But I'll tell you one thing. The thing that keeps me doing it is because I have a love hate thing. I have a love hate mentality with not knowing anything. So I love the idea of not realizing what I don't know, that I don't know certain things, and I'm gonna go dig into it. And I hate what I hate though is not that I don't know it yet. I'm okay with that because I know I'm gonna learn it. But I hate any stagnation in continuing that process. That's why this class, people talk about it being a pillar. I don't know if it's a pillar to people. That's something people will say. I don't know. I would hope though that I would be a positive impact like that. But I know that every Thursday night after I say peace to all of you, it is the beginning of my next week. And now all the things I don't know shit about or enough about or include into new things. You know what I'm saying? That's what leads me into the next week. And it's that's been a wonderful life. You know what I'm saying? It's been a wonderful life. You know? And sometimes you have to do the knowledge to yourself too. You know? A lot of times, like I share these kung fu clips. I was trying to get students, people to learn with me. I didn't know I moved that way a lot of times. You know what I'm saying? I knew I moved correctly because well shit, I have used it. Like I have survived with it. but I didn't know it looked like that. You know what I'm saying? So there's all types of ways of doing the knowledge, and that shit advances as you go along. You know, but I knew that a lot of the things I was teaching, because the way I teach comes with a heavy idea that I don't like teaching people blindly. I like them to know what they're getting into. I like them to know how they are being taught and what strategies I'm using right as I'm giving it to them. You know, so I'm giving them this knowledge, but I'm also showing them the techniques that are undergirding that lesson. You know, but I could certainly say, I don't know if my consistency changed the way a law school was. You people, the teacher at the law school in Mecca is literally the Egypt, the Kemet to the Nubia. You know, like the Kemet was that colony, not in the colonial sense like Puerto Rico to the US, but that colony, the flower that the world got to see, but the roots go down. As a teacher and as the teacher all these years, I'm literally that flower. I have to, you know, I'm a guy compared to this flower. Now my trolls will go nuts though. The guy said he's a flower though, but I'm literally, my position is like that flower. People see I'm representing it to the world though, but people don't see all of the other things that go into making a school. There's not just teaching in the classroom, there's teaching that goes to the teachers. There's teaching that goes to the sustainment of things in a school. That teaches students a lot. A lot of people don't know that a lot of my learning was cleaning the school, being at the school, living at the school. And I don't mean like sleeping at the school, but literally as close as you can to it, being at the school, you know, all the time. Engaging the community through the school. You know what I'm saying? Like talking to people like, yo, we here. You know what I'm saying? Like we here. You know what I mean? I'll get in over here. My health is in tip top shape, but I do have a little bit of a runny nose. Right? So the people will see me. So I don't know if I altered the trajectory of the school, because the people that really go to the school, they're no longer the people that are like, oh man, Wu-Tang is at the top of the charts, so I need to be there. They don't really care about Wu-Tang quality at the middle or off the charts, or Don Pacino off the charts, or anything, you know, that's building, like Killer Priest's deeper albums off the charts. And how does he write like that? What are all the things that he learned to get to that level of writing? They don't see that. They don't care about that. Less people will care about that. Less magnetic. So you get people that are really, really builders. You know what I'm saying? Right? That's why I don't get upset about less builders. Because the builders that are at the school are still the most profound that you see. You know, the ones that really care. But you know, people will see me at the school all these years, but they don't realize that people like Darkim, when they weren't at the school for many years teaching a particular class, they were the ones checking up on everything else that was going there. You know what I'm saying? And that crucial builds that guided the way I learned how to teach and analyze the success of my daily teachings in the classroom were little moments I would have with Darkim and with others, you know? These are things that people don't notice. That's why I don't say, I don't know if I altered the trajectory. I just showed what it would look like. As far as consistency, that I would say, because um, my life has a very intense consistency. Like I said, I didn't even write for about maybe 6 to 8 years. I didn't really write regularly, and I started this in 1998, and I still made the 70th journal. You know what I'm saying? I'm able to publish books. The latest book I published was based on 2 major essays I wrote in 2003. You know what I'm saying? And it's interesting because that Blackest Pedagogy essay, you know, this Blackest Pedagogy essay, I wrote it And what I was defining when I wrote it was what I will be as a teacher. And that's why to release it now, after all these years, shit, I never shared it. You know, I showed and proved what I was intending to do there. I wrote my history in advance. That was written in 2003, but I did it. I did that what I said I would do in 2003. You know, so that consistency. High train. I'm not the greatest martial artist. There's no way. There's no way. You know what I'm saying? But I've developed a way of teaching and a fighting style that is unique to me. And only because I kept to what my Seagung Bobby Whitaker told me. It's 20 minutes every time you train. That's it. When people see me train, it's 20 of the most concentrated minutes you'll see. I'm studying myself, all these things. I just kept doing that. Whether at least 4 to 5 days a week since the year 2000. You know? The consistency of things. You know? If people see what I've done, if it could be normalized, then that would be the greatest thing. Because I don't think I've done something mind-blowingly special. I think what I became is something special to me, but the way that I got there, I don't think is very special. It is not that difficult to get there as a idea to embrace, you know? You got me musing with these questions. But whoever said that about me being an institution and community, that's an honorable thing. That's really nice thing to say. Sim, you said they don't know the sacrifice, and dare I say they assume there isn't any sacrifice at all. Yeah, you know, you sacrifice the women that you're dealing with because they love the fruits of the labor, meaning the person that you become. You know what I'm saying? And all of this, they enjoy the comforts and stuff, but they don't enjoy that. Not just seeing you work all the time, but the fact that they don't keep up with that in some kind of way. But what they also, you may lose people, women, other people around you, is because um, the more you build, the more you get ideas that are out of the box in their frame of reference, in their thought, in their idea, their ability to conceive. And so your life that seems logical seems more avant-garde, more odd. You know what I mean? And they don't understand that. You know what I'm saying? So you lose people with that. You know, again, consistency. You know, I before I even got the knowledge, I was a vegan. I knew it was the way to go. These things I eliminated. I just needed to find the right foods to eat. You know what I mean? That I didn't know. But I started in 1996 and I never wavered. It has allowed me to have a different lifestyle, a different feel, an ability to detox very easily. You know what I'm saying? So these are sacrifices, though. These are sacrifices, though. You know, there are women that want to. There are women that want to be with me and worry about, well, how are we gonna go on a date? So this is if this is what the fuck you're worried about, then that means that you're worried about the things that you want to get, the things that you want to do. Like this is not, you know what I'm saying? Right? But these are the things that you encounter. You encounter sacrifice. You know, right? Do you, well, as you said, do you teach students that are older than you? I teach whoever comes to the school. So by default, you end up teaching people of all ages. Though I've had classes where I've had 70-year-olds and 5-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 50-year-olds. You know what I'm saying? Like, and the thing is that they're learning different things. You know what I'm saying? You have to find the gateway to, you know, the Savior Knowledge used to always talk to me about that. That you teach in the cipher, you teach to the least understanding. And if there are people that already know what you're saying, then you teach it with this is something I added. Then you teach it with a different style, flair, exuberance, technique, like a jazz singer singing that same song differently. So that the person that already knows the information, the knowledge, that insight, because man, they may have even heard it from you before. They get a different style of teaching, you know. Malik, you said that's my name for you. Yeah, Sunez Liu. Yeah, Gordon Liu, man, legend. No, no, no. Friday isn't the first day of my week. It is Thursday night once I leave the classroom. You know what I mean? Um, it's literally because of this classroom. I started teaching Thursday not only because it was the day that was free. There were many days free. There was nobody teaching. Um, I started teaching Thursday because at the time I worked at a book publishing firm that worked longer hours, but only worked full time Monday through Thursday. So I was like, I'm gonna teach Thursday night and then just go into my weekend. You know what I'm saying? And that's how I started teaching on Thursday. That's why I chose that day. But why Friday, technically becomes the first day of my week is because the way that I seek to share everything that I am in this classroom this Thursday. So everything that I have become is on this Thursday. You know what I'm saying? Lotus, yeah. And by the way, I can. I'm not fronting. I easily can get into the lotus position though, so I definitely can get into the lotus position. I haven't done push-ups in the lotus position though, so I got to get back to that. So I haven't done that. There are certain things over the years I've lost ability. I have pounded my hands so much that I can't do two-finger push-ups. I used to be able to do two-finger wave push-ups, but that was back in the day. Nobody would record me, so we would do it on Mount Morris Park with the gods. Infinite Mind see me do it plenty of times, so, and other gods we used to train with. But my hands are so beat and so ravaged that I don't. It would take me a while to get it though. And mind you, I was at a heavier weight though. I think when I was doing it, I was probably like 150. Now my training weight, I'm like 128 to 130. You know, so I'm all like lean. I learned more Qi Kung. I learned more how to have more strength even at this lean state. So you know, and I lift heavier weights now than I could at a higher weight. So with much of ease. Even though I go for a steady weight all the time, I don't go for that max weight anymore. Right? But yeah, I'm the Lotus. Like that. It's funny. Peace to the guy Kasim, out the gates TV. That is. Peace to guys and nerds. Peace to chat. Today's math is wisdom added to culture. I see that as the consistency of being wise. Not just being wise sometimes, but developing lifestyle. Ah, I see that. I see that. The power of adding on. Right. Indeed. Ah, it was you, Lord. That's peace, God. That's thank you. Thank you. If I didn't get knowledge of self, where would I be? I probably definitely would still be in states of confusion. I think Puerto Rican literature, especially, is always stuck between that white, black, Indian dichotomy that they do with the Spaniard, African slave, Spaniard conqueror, conquistador, right? African slave, uh, indigenous Taino, Arawak, which I never was comfortable with. And really the Spaniard is half original, though. It's original man, blood in there. But I'll probably be confused there. But I was very, very, and still am very much with the independence of Puerto Rico and that entire revolution movement. So I know I would be doing lots more stuff than just being um, a student of it, an analyzer of it, and a follower of the movement. I'll probably be much more directly active in that. And maybe I know I would be less healthy. I have always needed motivation for a particular purpose to do stuff. Like I said, consistency is very crucial. So the training is for a cause, though. So if I don't think I would have found the martial arts, and that consistency is what made me in shape. What made my diet worthwhile to continue to be rigorous with it. Um, to this knowledge itself made me continue to love knowledge and see a massive use in what I wrote and what I learned. You know what I mean? That pattern is so infused. It's why I can't really be in writer's block. You know what I'm saying? There's so much that I continue to read, and arts that I study, whether it's music, genres, books, whatever, right? Movies, film, right? So I think that rigor would have made, without that, I wouldn't have been so rigorous without the knowledge of self. And I don't think I would have been able to continue. You know what I'm saying? The obsessions with collecting music and stuff would have been tapered as useless. And so I wouldn't have done it as much. And I wouldn't have worked out as intensely and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? So these rigors, it's what made me more rigorous. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, you'd see somebody with minimal talent out there. You know what I'm saying? Untapped, undeveloped. You know what I'm saying? That's what you would say. Hasim said today, where there are many people who are no longer looking at organized religion but refer to God in terms like source, all, universe, most high. How can the original man be correlated to such? So those outsiders, because you can understand and process that reality. Yeah, you know, it's almost like a good step because they want to get away from organized religion, but they're just making up their own personal words for it, though. So it gets kind of stuck. You know what I'm saying? It gets kind of stuck. You know, but again, this is a good step. This is a good step because hopefully we would hope, and what I have seen too is that they are less constricted by their own definitions as well because their definitions aren't as detailed as religion, as the religions that they are countering or stepping away from, uh, attaching themselves to. You know, same you said. There's a fine, delicate line when it comes to replacing a religion, deity with those terms like universe. There's a bit of cognitive dissonance happening when they do this. Oh yeah, definitely. You know what I'm saying definitely. You know, but the 85, the 5, and the 10%. The 5, I always teach is the 5 and the mentalities of the 85% are based on inconsistency. So when they have a cognitive dissonance that is being defined outside of the religious institutional laws of whatever said religion, there's more of a hope because the 85 are marked by inconsistency. They're not neither good or bad. They're marked by inconsistency. You know what I mean? And that'll fall you more into doing the wrong thing, which could be seen as bad, but they're not really good or bad. You know? Whereas the 10% seek to conquer and change the reality for themselves. And so they destroy while they take. And then the 5% we master. You know what I'm saying? We master what's there. We deal with things as is, but we change things by the nature of what we add on to it. You know? So in that sense, though, this is the way that we would engage as well. You know? Kasim, you said, would you see it as unethical for 5% to use terms like the most high, even when knowing it's a mystery and within self? Yeah, yeah. I've always had a problem with that. You know what I'm saying? And I if I hear MCs or things like that say that, I know that they're inconsistent with that, and it's technically wrong. You know what I'm saying? The most high. You know what I'm saying? Most high. You know, certainly is. It's incorrect. You said I remember being in a cipher and a God made reference to the Most High. That's not what he meant, but other gods bombed them. That's his shit. You know, preserver of wisdom. I see that God. I see that powerful as I am. You know, as I am. That's peace, God. Yeah, because if you're, like, listen, we're supposed to build with clarity, man. And if you don't have clarity, though, that's one thing. Like, a lot of times, people that aren't built for this, they crumble when they get bombed for clarity. And I'm gonna keep it real. That's when you know somebody's not really with this shit. They're not built for that, though. You know what I'm saying? Ah, West Coast wise. Okay. When they're not built for clarity and they can't take a bombing for clarity, that means that they're weak, that they're soft, that they're not built for this, though. And I say it to anyone that is not there, you know what I'm saying? They're not getting that. You get somebody that you don't really know like that. And unlike most 5%ers they build in the neighborhood, I build with people that aren't in the neighborhoods that I'm at. They could come over all the 5 boroughs. And to think that you would have such lack of clarity and they would go somewhere else and say the wrong shit and saying that you said it, not only do I misrepresent what I could have told them, I misrepresent the school, I misrepresent the entire nation overtly. And just think about it though. Just think how it's not that easy. How after all these years, no one really can say no one really says, I learned this shit. And said, no, that's some like confusing shit you just said. And it's not really all right and exact. Well, I got it from Sunez. You don't hear that shit. Because I spent years, months, and days continuing to develop the right and exact way to share a thought and idea, whether the idea is developing, whether it is concrete, whether it represents this knowledge as truthful as it is, to share that. And that's something that people don't want to take the responsibility. They like to be wishy-washy. And let me tell you why. Because a lot of people think that it is also for the artist. They not only try to be an artist, but they relate to the artist in this way that the artist is someone who just gives their thoughts of the moment. And so they could be wrong about everything, but that's what they thought at that moment. That is okay for certain artistry, but that is not okay for the way we build. You know what I'm saying? And the truth is, right? After I became a 5%er, there isn't really anything I've written that people could bring back to me saying, Sunez, this wasn't right and exact. Now just think about the amount of pages that I had to write beforehand to develop them, to refine them. And my average is probably at least for every page that has been published by me, it's probably 400, not 400 though, but maybe about 20, 30, maybe 40 pages that are written to get to that point of that one page. You know what I'm saying? And that rate is what refines you. That's why, like, where would you get that? Are you going to practice building and just build with the whole world incorrectly and get to practice ruining the mentalities or the direction of all these youth and then get it right all of a sudden? No, there has to be a place, whether in the classroom and in the books, to develop that. You know what I'm saying? Right? Wise Pitch, are you still ML Ray? You know, for those that don't know what that means, that I have a troll that been trolling me for a long time. And he took a clip of me saying that I don't believe this. It's actually from the 5% Connection podcast interview. And I said, I teach my students that I don't believe this knowledge that they have is because I don't. I know it to be so. Well, he took that piece where I said, I don't believe this knowledge and just looped it. And then he was like, I didn't loop anything. That's what he said. And he's like, I don't believe this knowledge. I don't believe. It's like me saying that one part again and again. So Dark Kim showed, I didn't even know that was out there like that. And Dark Kim showed me. And he was saying that I was sound bitten and altered like Martin Luther King. And he's the one that started calling me ML Ray because Ray is Spanish for king. You know what I'm saying? El Rey, you know, the king. So he's the one that called me that, though, you know. But I think it's really funny, though. So that's funny, you know. He be calling me ML Ray and shit. You know, I don't think Dark Kim realizes how now everybody calls me ML Ray now. You know? Shit is too funny to me. And I find that the way this guy is trolled, though, to be mad funny. You know what I'm saying? It's hilarious to me. You know? Right? Because they're never going to say, the guy said terrible things about my old earth who returned to the essence. He said horrible things. It's in his best interest not to meet me now. You know what I'm saying? It's in his best interest to me now. Because there's There's many lessons that he could learn now that I would hand out freely. You know what I'm saying? But I, I still find it funny that he said all that shit. Dark Kim is crazy, man. Dark Kim is crazy. Calm, you said if the mystery God is most high, that means he is not below, but Allah is seen and heard everywhere. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where that motherfucker is though. He says most high. I don't know where it is. You know what I'm saying? I'm very clear. That's why I don't even teach like my when people say when people say that this is my bad self, I have to get to my higher self and not my lower self. These are things that make a lot of sense in the analysis of a lot of ancient Eastern philosophies. But I don't teach that because I won't have anybody with the knowledge of self and say that there's a true living God, the true living earth, and then do some dumb shit and say, "Oh, I'm in my lower self." You know what I'm saying? No, you're just fucking up. You're not being you of any kind. And me, Sunez, of a doing fucked up wrong shit is not my lower self. It's me doing fucked up shit. That is not me. And I also don't want people to dismiss when they are in error, when they were in flaw. You know what I'm saying? Let's say you have a diet though. Now we're not talking about eating pig or nothing like that. You're in a diet and you're eating the wrong foods at this one day. Like it's it's season time. Like no matter what though, we're gonna be with our families though. We give the kids presents and stuff. I watch all these fucking cartoons and everything. I like all the cartoons. You know what I'm saying? And yet I'm at the same time teaching them about Jesus Christ, the Christ Mass, Saturnalia. I be messing with them too. I'd be like, yo, ask your teacher about Saturnalia. Be doing that. You know what I'm saying? And all of these things, right? I teach them, about, like we were watching these Christmas movies that they're fun, but my daughter never seen like a giant Jesus Christ dead on a stick. You know what I'm saying? And she found that disgusting and horrible. You know what I'm saying? Because we were watching Pinocchio. That's what we're watching. Guillermo del Toro, his Pinocchio. She ain't never seen that. Like a dead man was laying still. She said, yo, she's like, did they really put nails in there? And I said, yeah, that's what they used to do. You know what I'm saying? I'm teaching her the history, So you get a lot of teaching when you show them things. I want my kid to see everything. That's one thing that Fidel did wrong with Cuba, by the way. He tried to block the outside world. This is what Fidel did was a very Taoist concept. I think it's the next to last, the 80th aphorism, right? The 80th sutra of the Tao Te Ching talks about the simpler society with love basically is one that is shut off from the outside world. And even though they hear great things that they have never heard of, like technology, things like that, that's what they meant. They don't need to embrace it. And so they live a simpler life, but in a more productive life, but in a more valuable life, to them that they value. But in this devil civilization, they work to break that. They work to break that. So you can't just block off all the time. We have to block off its segments and go back to the world, like a bodhisattva. So that's why, to me, the laboratory. I'm just going off of the riff here. The laboratory, your own personal laboratory, whether it's a room, whether it's just a time and moment on that sofa where you bust out the books, where you work to create. This laboratory is where you're gonna repurpose yourself to the world and develop your essence. But when you're in the wrong, whether you eat the wrong thing, you have to be just like you're going to be out there in Christmas though. I know you guys won't fall victim to the pork, but what if you fall victim to just eating the wrong foods and too much of them, too much of the treats, too much of the cakes, too much of the cookies? Be mindful of that. Be aware of that though. Like literally be like, I'm fucking up here. What can I do? You know what I'm saying? What can I do? Because this is also the time where everybody starts to get sick. It's because they're starting to eat more of the wrong foods or eat improperly. You know what I'm saying? So treats become full course meals. You know what I'm saying? Right? One cookie becomes 10. One slice of cake becomes 5. Right? A little cup of ice cream becomes a whole pint. You know what I'm saying? Right? So this is This is where you have to be mindful. This is what develops the mettle of the student. This is when we talk about the student that is too weak or this and that. That's the mettle, the METTL of the student, the mettle of the build, because you're always going to be a student. You know what I'm saying? I taught students though, and yet they'll come back and teach me something like I'm doing wrong with this and that. You know what I'm saying? All these things are important though. You know what I'm saying? You have to have a certain strength when you're in the wrong, and how well you deal with that. You know what I'm saying? How well do you come back from that? You know, I say about kung fu, a lot of people love the not the just the kicks that I do, but like the power. I have a lot of power and speed on my kick, but there's a lot of power in it. Like people do kicks that are like high and everything, but I'm saying for me, they have great athleticism. But I'm like, yo, that shit hit me. All right, like boom, boom. You know what I mean? Right? I wouldn't be too. You know, I don't care how big it is. It doesn't. That shit. It's just like a clock. It's coming at. It's coming at me at the speed of a clock. You know, like this shit don't have no power. Shit is just heavy. And I'm like, I had a class session with my Seagun one time, and he made me do roundhouses, so kick across, and he stood here, so I'm kicking across and hitting him on the chest. Bang, he goes harder, bang, harder, harder. I'm giving it all I got. Seagun Bobby says, it's no good. So I said, I'll keep trying, I'll keep trying. And he goes, nah, just go home. Demoralizing. Took the trip back home. Weak kick. You know what I'm saying? Weak. And I was like, that was my thing. That was my thing. I was taught legs first when I started to train. Hands later. So if people say I have fast hands, so I learned that last. You know what I'm saying? I learned a very northern style of Shaolin Kung Fu. You know what I'm saying? Where more flashy off the ground. That's how I learned first. You know? And I was demoralized. But all I did was I said, I'm really, really, really gonna try hard. And swinging those shits like they gotta go through. They gotta go through the person. You know what I'm saying? But you have to be very aware of when you're in error. Be aware. Be aware. Be in that moment too. You know what I'm saying? Those battles where I almost was killed as an early student in Kung Fu and I was out in the streets and I almost got killed. I was very, very aware. And it made me realize that I wasn't as good enough to defeat that enemy, but I was good enough to actually survive people trying to kill me. And I thought, wow, this shit works. I don't work. I'm not working as well as I could, but this shit, you know what I'm saying? This shit works. You know what I mean? Excuse me. You know, this shit really works. You know? I've got to honor it better. I've got to put more intensity to it. I can't just do the 20 minutes of Kung Fu as count down and get it done. I've got to be in it. I've got to lose myself. Black out within it, though. These are the things that you learn when you're in that moment, though. You know? When you learn that it's an honor to have an elder that has taught so many take the time to fucking bomb you. You know what I'm saying? That's an honor to get bombed up. So no shit. You know? Sims, my powerful, you said speaking only on how they feel and not what they know and understand will cause that inconsistency. Oh yeah, about the 85, absolutely. Absolutely. Right. Wow, see, yeah, the troll, we always try to get people that, yeah, you know, I've been, the troll hasn't bothered me in a while, you know, yeah, in a while, yeah. ML Ray, I don't mind it though. I don't mind it though. ML Ray. Yeah, that big statue. Yeah, that big Christ. See, what happens is though is that you think a lot of people think that when you're too sensitive, what people don't realize is that a small bombing, like about a distinct word that you think it's not a big deal and stuff like that, you're not looking into the idea that living this knowledge of self for so long is not an easy thing. And teaching many people needs a distinctness of language because you're gonna have to adjust that language for people that don't have the quality of vocabulary you have, can't take on many different ideas at once. You know what I'm saying? So you have to be able to show a quality of a lone idea and amplify the quality of that one idea so that they could concentrate on that and explore that depth of that. You have to know the depth of the simple. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of nuance to this, you know? Because not everybody could take a long build, you know what I'm saying? Not everybody could take a long build, you know? And sometimes you also got to realize that some people's only going to be built with for that moment, though. And you maybe just be planting a seed, nothing else. You know what I'm saying? Nothing else. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You know, absolutely. You know? And I think that someone, when you get older and you're teaching this knowledge, you have to build your own hot seat. And that's why you don't need to be built with. You need to develop your own hot seat. How you challenge yourself constantly, you know? That's right. That's right. We got to work on the ones. Yeah. Fire that forges the builds. The forges a stronger build. I see that. And you know, the truth is that some people are bombed, and it's out of ego of that person talking to you and shit like that. Some of it is bullshit. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's not like I'm expecting everyone to get bombed just for some gratuitous thing. No, you stand up for yourself. You know, you share your understanding, how you see things. You know what I'm saying? You demand respect. You know what I'm saying? You know, so that's not what I'm saying either. You know what I'm saying? That's definitely not what I'm saying. That's an interesting thing you said. You know, not get starstruck and know how to build with gods you've seen in videos. That's crazy to me. You know, because I met these people before that was on the videos. You know what I'm saying? So they're not really people on the videos to me. You know, they're people that they happen to make videos of. Finally, you know, but it's interesting. You know, I would hope though that when people don't, whether they do or don't build with me, it's not because they, I don't know, feel some kind of way like starstruck or something. I wouldn't want that. You know, but it could happen. I guess. You know what I'm saying? All right, let me read this. It's kind of happened to me. Like where people were having me. Yeah, indeed, indeed. Because we got to respect these forms. You're teaching to people that you do not see. The video and the written word will do that. You know what I'm saying? And that's profound. You know what I mean? But that's peace. Well, on that note, though, thank you, Self Elevation. I'm gonna say that this class is over. I always like to give you at least 3 hours and stuff. Sometimes I can't. Today I was able to. Um, but Wise Prince, contact me social media, I guess. But also you can contact me through the email. Then I give you my math too. But yeah. So yeah, we'll build. We'll build. I'll send you some things too. You know, that's peace. That's peace. Find those strategies. Find those things. Create things. You know what I'm saying? Be a creator. You know. Right. But on that note, though, just like I said, I'm about to start my new week now. As I let you all go. As I said, build, create, be a creator, create things, study creations. You know what I'm saying? Add on. You know what I mean? All right. Peace.